All right. We'll go ahead and call the Select Board meeting to order for Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. We have one member, Shaidu Anand, is remote and will be participating remotely, and all other members of the Select Board are present for this meeting at Town Hall, room 215-216 in person. At this time, I will ensure that Select Board members Shaidu Anand participating remotely can hear and be heard. Mr. Manan, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Brian and all. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, all good. So it works in here, Elaine, it's not in there, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. So with that, we'll begin tonight with with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Agenda item 2, public forum. Residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding their town government. Would anyone like to come up and say hello? Hello. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Kelly DePaulo, 6 Hoyt Way. I saw on the agenda that you in executive session tonight have on it an update and strategy session regarding the arbitration filed by Officer Timothy Brennan. So I brought with me tonight a summary of the order of the single commissioner of the Post Commission that might help you in executive session. It points out the important details from the commissioner's report. The super important things are all in bold and underlined to make it easy for your reading pleasure this evening. So I hope you guys take this into consideration, and we look forward to hearing your results from that.
Great. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next item, the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda: accepting a gift. The Select Board will consider accepting a donation of $250 from the Hopkinton Garden Club for horticulture-related books in honor of its 100th anniversary celebration. New employees, the Select Board will consider confirming the town manager's appointment of Kara Charles as reference librarian and Alyssa Fluette as public safety dispatcher. And 3rd, resignations. The Select Board will consider accepting the resignations of Anna Dorsey from the Historical Commission as an associate member and Chris Ann Connell from the Trail Coordination and Management Committee. Does anybody want to break anything out of the consent agenda?
To the chair, nothing to break, but I just wanted to extend our thanks to Anna and Chrisanne for their service.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing nobody wants to break anything out, would anyone like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mary Jo, roll call, please.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Rodabush, yes, with thanks to the Garden Club.
Mr. Manan. Brian Hur.
Yes.
Brian Hur, yes. It's unanimous and so carries. All set on the consent agenda. Amy, would you do me a favor and hand that to Elaine, who was submitted this evening to us? And you want to, you're going to leave yours there, whatever. Okay. All right. Next up, item 4, the Select Board will consider making appointments to the following boards and committees. The Conservation Commission has there's one vacancy with a 3-year term ending on June 30th, 2027. The applicants are Curtis Smithson, Heather Burton, Raymond Smith, and Sudeep Madi, and Sarab Faramarzi. I hope I got those names right. And then there's also a Sustainable Green Committee There's 6 vacancies with 3-year terms ending in June 2027, and we have 1 applicant, Thomas Donahue. So let's take the first one first. Elaine, if you would, please.
For the Conservation Commission, there are a number of applicants, and some of them should be here this evening.
Do we have any of the applicants for the Conservation Commission here with us this evening? Okay. Seeing none.
Someone is raising their hand. They have a different name, but no, they put their hand down. Okay.
Is there someone in Zoom?
None that match the names. Oh, so someone's raising their hand even though their name doesn't match, so maybe they're logged in as someone else. So should we leaven them up?
Sorry, I can't hear.
So the name on Zoom is Malcolm Smith, which is not one of the names of the applicants, but they could be logged into someone else's account.
They could be part of the Raymond Smith
Raymond Smith? Okay.
contingency, yeah.
So should we leaven them up?
Is Raymond Smith on Zoom by chance?
I am. It's Malcolm Smith, same name.
I'm sorry? So, Raymond, you're on the Malcolm Smith Zoom link? Is
Yes,
that-
I confuse everybody. Use my middle name. My given name is Raymond.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And then,
So we have one individual that's here and no one else.
someone else just joined, initials RMS, is that?
We're a little early here. You know what, I think we should come back to this in a few minutes. Let's just table it for right now. Raymond, hang in there. We'll come back to you in a few minutes, but I want to make sure we do this with enough time for folks that we're going to join. So,
Thank you.
all right, we'll be back to you. And I think on the Sustainable Green Committee, we have one applicant, Thomas Donahue. Is Thomas here by chance? Thomas, would you please join us at the table? How many folks are on the Sustainable Green Committee overall?
14 adults and 1 youth.
One youth. And this is all the 6 vacancies are for,
Actually, I think there may be 4 vacancies, but
Yes.
they're all for, it could be a youth and it could be an adult.
okay.
I think 6 it says, right, Elaine?
Didn't hear the question?
I think on the agenda it says 6.
It does, but I think there may only be 4.
There's plenty.
There's 1 applicant.
There's a lot.
Exactly.
We'll leave it at that for now. Okay, so Thomas, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself and give us your interests or why you're here to talk about the Sustainable Green Committee?
I'm Thomas Donahue. I've been attending their meetings for about a year at this point, and I'm interested in helping the environment and helping curb the effects of climate change.
Okay, great. Do you have any background in this area, or is this just a passion of yours, or are you studying it, or did you study it, or?
I take science in school. I'm part of the science fair and general research about it.
Okay, great. So is Thomas here as a student member, or is he here as an adult member, do we know?
He could be either.
Okay. I don't even know if we're allowed to ask those questions anymore.
Yeah, I think there's 1 seat.
There is a student person, right?
There's 1 seat set aside for a youth, but that doesn't mean a youth can't fill another seat.
Okay, great. So why don't we start with Mrs. Ritter-Bush? Any questions, comments for Thomas?
I'd like to thank Thomas for stepping up. I just wanted to clarify, because we recently rewrote the charge for the Sustainable Green Committee. Does Thomas meet all the qualifications of the new charge?
Yes, been reviewed by the chair and all is good.
Okay, great, thank you.
You all set with Thomas? Okay, great job.
No questions. Appreciate you coming out, showing support for this. It's a great cause.
That's the front air.
It sounds like you're very interested in science and you're getting a science background in school. Is that like a major for you? I mean, we don't have majors in high school, but okay, thank you.
Mr. Manon, any questions or comments for Thomas?
No questions. Thank you, Thomas, for stepping up. And this is a very important area, and looks like you're passionate and have a lot of energy. So looking forward to having you. And please spread the words. As you have heard, we have quite a few others open. So welcome and thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any questions for Thomas. I think it's a great opportunity for the town. I think it's a great opportunity for the committee, and certainly a great opportunity for Thomas to learn even more about the various things that we're working on to make our world a better place. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to approve Thomas Donahue to the Sustainable Green Committee for a 3-year term.
I move to appoint Thomas Donahue to the Sustainable Green Committee for the term ending June 30th, 2027.
Second that?
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Lafreniere and a second by Mr. Manon for Thomas. Any further discussion? Mary Jo, your vote, please.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Rodenbush, yes.
Mr. Manon.
Rahul Manan, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. It is unanimous and so carries. Congratulations, Thomas. You're on the Sustainable Green Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a swearing in, or is there a, does he have to go to the town clerk for that position?
Yes, so he'll receive an email with all the instructions.
So Thomas, you'll get an email from town hall, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, 1-hour ethics
And
training.
you'll get yourself signed in and sworn. You swear in for that too, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Great. All right, still a little early for Conservation Commission. So could we go to,
The next one's easy.
and I think we can, the bottled water rebate, item number 5 on the agenda. The Select Board will consider a recommendation from the Director of Public Works to rescind the bottled water rebate program for municipal water customers due to the successful completion and implementation of the PFAS filtration system. Mrs. Lazarus.
So DPW Director Kerry Reed could not be here tonight, but her memo recommends discontinuance of this program now that the PFAS filtration plant has been installed and there's been 3 months of successful testing. So the water is good to go.
Okay. Mrs. Ritterbush, any questions?
No, it's great that it's working so effectively.
Mr. Clark.
No questions.
Ms. Lafreniere.
Oh, I'm very glad I'm using the water.
Using the
I had big bottles in my kitchen. They're
tap
gone.
water now. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Manon, any questions?
No, happy to hear that. Everything is going our plan and remediation. One quick anecdotal question. Elaine, do we know how much budget savings would that translate to for the rest of the year?
I don't know, no.
I think the question was, what would the savings be for the balance of the fiscal year, so through June 30th, 25?
Yeah, I don't know the cost of the bottled water rebate program, so.
Okay.
No, not
Did
this
you
year.
ask Carrie and just have her follow up with us on that, just as a curiosity point, and we got a scratch for pennies here.
Through the chair.
Anything else? Mr. Manon?
No, nothing else. This is good. Thank you.
Amy?
I was just going to say, I think we all just got our water bills for fall, so there wouldn't be another billing period. And we get the water bottle rebate off the bill, and so there's not going to be another bill till the new year.
Okay. Do we know of anybody that is highly dependent on the bottled water program to this day? Has there been any concern expressed in the community by anyone, anywhere? Have you heard anything
I
like
have
that?
not heard that. I don't know if the DPW has heard anything.
Okay.
But the water does meet the standards,
And the water is testing consistently to meet the standard?
and it will continue to be tested.
Okay, great. All right, with that, the chair will entertain a motion on item 5.
I move to rescind the bottled water rebate program for municipal water customers due to the successful completion and implementation of the PFAS filtration system.
Second.
We have a motion on the table and a second. Any further discussion? We'll start with Mr. Manon. How do you vote, please?
Rahul Manan, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes?
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Rodenbush, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. That's unanimous and so carries. All set. That rescinded program, well, the program is now rescinded. Okay, I think it's a little early on the budget message because we might have some other folks attend that. We could probably talk about the special town meeting, item number 7, Elaine, don't you think?
Sure. At the last meeting, the board set the date for the special town meeting of November 18th. And what is needed now is to set the time of the of the meeting and to open the warrant, which will close 10 days after a notice is published, which would be on Wednesday.
November 18th is a Monday. We would typically start an evening town meeting, which most of them have been over the years, at 7 PM. Is that correct? Does anybody have any screaming desire to do something different than that?
I just had a question.
Okay.
Can we ask the planning board if they are going to be ready for a presentation on the MTA area planning? If they will have it by the November 18th?
It will be ready,
Present?
yes.
Okay.
Will they have their warrant article drafted before the 10 days are up?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's the primary, one of the primary reasons for the town meeting is for that particular
Right.
topic,
Correct.
correct?
And the map or multiple maps will be,
There may be more than one option.
but they'll know before the warrant
Yes.
closes. Okay.
Are they planning on doing some preliminary, meet and greets or preliminary public hearings or sessions to discuss the issue before town meeting?
There will be a public hearing. I don't know the date of that yet, but there will be a public hearing. And all of the abutters to the land that may be selected will be notified by mail.
Of how, no matter the number of options.
Correct.
So all the options will have a butter notification.
All the options that they're going to go forward with. So I think my understanding is that there are 3, and if they cut that down to 2 before the public hearing, then it would be 2.
Okay. All right, great. So you want us to set a time
Yes.
and open the warrant itself? Okay, so I believe there's a motion for this.
There is.
You want to go ahead and do that?
I move to set the time for the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting for 7 PM. To open the warrant for the November 18th town meeting, 2024, special town meeting, due to close the warrant 10 days from the date of publication of the notice. When's the notice?
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, everybody good with the motion?
Do we need to set the location, or that can be done later?
The board doesn't need to vote that, but it will be the middle school auditorium.
Okay.
Okay,
No other questions?
so we have a motion on the table and a second for a special town meeting on November 18th to begin at 7 PM in the evening. Any further discussion? Mr. Manning, questions, comments?
No, I think that sounds good. But I would agree, we want to kind of review the readiness in the next few, or one of the sessions.
Okay, great. All right, with that, I think we're ready for a vote. Mr. Manon?
Heather Manon, yes?
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Roderbush, yes?
Brian Herr, yes. It's unanimous and so carries. We'll have that special town meeting at 7 PM on the 18th. And the warrant is now open. And we don't want any financial articles.
Correct.
Shall I repeat that?
Yes.
We don't want any financial articles,
Except ones that
except for one that gives us some money back.
Yeah.
We don't want to spend any money. We don't have any money to spend. Okay, so that's item number 7. Elaine, do you want to try and tackle because we're still a couple minutes early here. Do you want to try and tackle the town manager report?
I
think we're okay now.
Section 4. We're supposed to start at 6:15 before. It's almost 6:20.
6:15, okay, you're right. All right, I thought I was
2
thinking.
applicants are on Zoom.
So let's do that. Let's go back to item 4. Board and committee appointments. The Select Board will consider making appointments to the following boards and committees, and the one we haven't done yet is the Conservation Commission. There's one vacancy, and we had several names here. Do we have any individuals in the audience in the room for the Conservation Commission appointment? Seeing none, I believe we have someone on Zoom?
2 on Zoom, yeah.
2 on Zoom. Who would those be, please?
So, let's see. It's Raymond Smith and Heather Burton.
Raymond Smith and Heather Burton. Okay. Why don't we go in alphabetical order with those that we have on Zoom? Heather, if you're out there, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you great, thank you. Welcome. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and giving us your background and your interests in serving on the Conservation Commission, please.
Sure. Thank you for giving me the time. I'm trying to, if you can't see me. So I'm Heather Burton. I am an oceanographer by training. I have been in higher education for about 15 years now. Last about 13 years have been spent teaching oceanography and the like at Massachusetts Maritime Academy in Buzzards Bay. So I recently moved to Hopkinton about a little over a year ago, but spent close to 20 years on Cape Cod. And in that time, have made, on a personal level, many connections with the natural environment in regards to sustainability and environmental science. That is both something that I'm passionate about, but also is very much a focus of my career and teaching. That's about it. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. I guess what we should do is probably go through each one first, and then we'll kind of go from there. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, Mr. Manon, do you have any questions for Heather?
Thank you, Ms. Burton, for stepping up. And this is, again, another very important area for our town, for our overall climate, and globally. I would like to understand, you have an excellent background, great resume, and thank you again. How do you plan to use your experience for the role for the town?
Sure. Yeah, that's an excellent question. Over the last 5 years, I've gotten both faculty, in my department, as well as students highly involved in stormwater analysis. And I understand that that's a topic that's, not critical only to Hopkinton, but becoming a major issue and getting a fair amount of attention. So I think I can bring some background in, stormwater analysis. Right now, my department works with local municipalities. We get funding from those municipalities to do analysis of, those various towns. So I think that's one critical, very much direct relationship. But also, again, I have a background in climate change, sustainability and environmental science. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
All set?
Yep, thank you.
Great. Mrs. Ritterbush?
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Clark?
Heather, thank you for volunteering. It's greatly appreciated. My only question, as a newer resident to town, have you had the chance to attend any Concom meetings recently? And just kind of let me know what your expectations are around that time commitment and what you'd be signing up for.
That is a really fair question. I have not, unfortunately. I have spoken directly with Melissa. We've had a couple phone conversations, but outside of that, no, I think that's something I would really need to, get caught up with. It would be a bit of a steep learning curve at first, but I'm willing to do it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All set? Questions?
No, I don't think so. You sound like a good fit for Hopkinton and for the job, so.
Thank you.
All set? Mm-hmm. Heather, have you ever participated in a public meeting where open meeting laws are required to be followed?
I'm there.
Oh, I think Malcolm was speaking for a second there.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, but it's been over 20 years. So I can say I was on a conservation commission when I first moved to Rhode Island for graduate school. But that was a long time ago. So I would say I would also need to study up on that as well. Yep.
Other than Zoom, it really hasn't changed in the last 200 years, so I think you'll be good.
Okay. It was almost, I didn't put it, in my write-up or anything, because I thought it's a little embarrassing that it's been 20 plus years since I've been to a meeting like that. But yeah.
No need to be embarrassed.
Oh, I was just saying, there is a training in the beginning should you get the position.
Wonderful. Okay.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Heather. If you could just hang on for a few minutes. And now we'll hear from Raymond Smith. Raymond, if you're out there, if you could say hello, please.
Good evening. Yes, thank you.
And do you prefer to go by Raymond or Malcolm?
I confuse everyone by using my middle name, which is Malcolm. Thank you for recognizing it. So Malcolm.
Malcolm is how you want to be called. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Welcome, Malcolm. Thanks for joining us this evening. If you want to take a couple minutes, introduce yourself and share your interest in the Conservation Commission, please.
Thank you. So you'll tell immediately that I don't originally hail from the United States. I'm from the north of England originally. Been here now for nearly 25 years. Came over as an orthopedic surgeon at Mass General. I've moved around several places in the area and recently moved to Hopkinton. My professional interests are obviously in medicine, not in conservation. But personally, I'm highly committed to the environment and every aspect of conservation in the home, community, and everything we have around us. So I'll be a lay member as such, but I have lots of experience in committee from my work. I've administered major parts of hospitals, set up systems and organized things in that respect. So I've been an enthusiastic and committed member and clearly couldn't offer the last lady's professional experience, but I'd hope that'd be acceptable too.
Okay, great. Thank you. Why don't we start with Mr. Manon again? Any questions, comments for Malcolm?
Thank you, Malcolm, Dr. Smith, for stepping up, and happy to see that you're committed for this. I'll ask the same question, but before I do that, you have outstanding resume, of course, and a very thoughtful literary background, intelligent background as a thought leadership in your field. So very impressive, and I just had my surgery last year, actually, so I might take your advice on some of the future ones, hopefully not that I would need, but great to see you committing for volunteer services. So again, how do you see your passion and your background being used for the role that you have applied for?
Well, I think conservation and the environment are the most important things in our world today, and every way we could affect that is critical. I recently moved from Framingham and noticed the difference in the town there in the last 5 years, with masses and changes in housing and access and the roads and traffic. And clearly there's ways you have to change to accept things that are happening around us, but the more we can control them in the appropriate way, the better. And I'd be highly committed to help people do that and to the work of the committee.
Excellent. No doubt about it. And it seems like you have, very thoughtful analytical considerations on that, and very passionate. So another question, and I would ask it to Ms. Barton as well. Since we have only one position, if this works out, great. If not, would you be interested for, we have other positions as well as in Sustainable Green. We just talked about it. There are another 5 positions or 3 positions available in that. So no matter how tonight goes, I would like to see you both stay interested and engaged and go for something similar where your passions align.
Yes, I would be. I mean, obviously I've applied for the one I've applied for, but if I can help in another way, I'd be delighted.
Thank you. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Nothing further. Yeah.
Great, thank you. This is the front here.
I have no questions. Read the resume.
Malcolm, thank you for volunteering. You said you moved to Hopkinton recently. Have you been able to attend the CONCOM meetings, whether virtually, recently?
Yes, recently joined one by Zoom.
Sorry, I missed that last part. You joined one of them recently?
Yes, the last one by Zoom.
Okay, perfect. And what was your expectations around like the time commitment needed for it? Any issues there?
Not really. I don't work full time anymore. I still work, but it isn't quite as full time as it used to be. And the advantage of doing things occasionally by Zoom make things totally manageable.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you again, Malcolm.
Amy?
Yeah, I don't really have any other questions. We have the information in our packet, and I was happy to hear from the candidates. And I was just going to bring up the same thing that Shahidul did, that we do have openings on Sustainable Green and other committees for whoever doesn't get the spot. the spot tonight.
Great, thank you. Same question, if I could, please. Are you familiar with the open meeting laws, and have you ever, participated in a meeting that's governed by them?
Personally, no, I do not.
Okay.
I'm sure I'd learn quickly.
It is, you can be a very quick study of it. It's not a big deal. I'm just curious, trying to gauge the market, if you will. Okay, so with that, thank you, Malcolm, for your inputs. And Heather, thank you as well. We have two great candidates, I think, in front of us. So does anybody have any interest in proceeding in one direction or another?
I like, right now, Heather Burton. I like the fact that she's not local Hopkinton, but she is local. She's worked at Mass Maritime and participated in a lot of local Massachusetts issues, and I think that will help her get going in conservation here in town.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Clark.
I would actually agree with Mary Jo. I think Heather's background is much more in line with the specific requirements of Concom. I think we just lost our conservation agent recently, so we need all the help we can get there. So I would go with Heather.
Okay.
Yep, I was leaning the same way, but it would encourage Malcolm to apply for the next opening.
Yeah, my sense is there could be another opening or two, in the next few months. So, okay, thank you. Anything else? Mr. Menon, any thoughts?
No, I would echo the same. I think Heather's, Ms. Burton's experience is a little more closely aligned, and I feel both of the candidates' passion, and they're both very smart, very accomplished, and have deep expertise in their field. So great to have you both. And Malcolm, please apply for the Sustainable Green or other committee, and we'd love to have you there as well. But for tonight, I think I'll go with Heather.
Okay, great. Thank you both for applying. It is a great commission to be part of, and I'm sure there'll be future opportunities for others that are interested. With that, the chair will entertain a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to appoint Heather Burton to the Conservation Commission to the term expiring June 30th, 2026.
Okay.
Second that.
So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Menon, how do you vote, please?
Shahidul Manan, yes.
Mary Jo?
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Rodenbush, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. It's unanimous and so carries. Heather, welcome to the Conservation Commission. Malcolm, please do come back. I'm sure we can find a home for you very soon. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you so much.
Heather, the town will be in touch with you. The town manager's office will be in touch to get you set up and sworn in and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be selected. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6 is the budget message at 6:30, so we're just a couple minutes beyond that, which is great. I think we have most of the key players in the room. I don't think we have to have everybody come up and kind of get into a whole round table so much. Lane, do you want to kick this off and maybe make a recommendation or two, and we can go from there?
Sure. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is for the board to develop its message and guidance and expectations that goes out to town departments for a submission of FY26 budget requests. And I'm just going to briefly review the budget process where we go from here. Once the budgets are submitted, the town manager reviews them along with the CFO and meets with every department head. Then the board will be meeting jointly with the school committee at key points over the next several months, so that by the time that budget is submitted, you'll have the information and history on that budget as well. Then the town manager develops a comprehensive budget and submits it to the select board in January. And this includes the school department budget requests and also includes the capital plan. So while all this is going on, the CIC is also taking its capital review under, and that process has already begun. And then the select board also will meet with department heads and the school committee during its review. And right now, Kyla will review the numbers, and then after she talks about the numbers, we'll talk about the recommendation.
So you'll see the sources and uses document in the issue paper that was submitted last week. This is a pure estimate, so it's so early on in the budget process that I want to call your attention to a couple of the line items. So the first one is excess prior fiscal year certified free cash. You're going to see that in the sources, or in the sources of funds, over $10 million. That is coming from the overlay for the LNG transfer, as well as certified free cash from '24, as well as high balances from '24. So this is purely an estimate at this point, but we believe we're going to have an excess of $10 million in free cash. Obviously, our repayment of debt and principal of interest, so that is almost doubling to 13 million, and as we know in '26 and '27, it's going to continue to rise. Our transfer to stabilization, this year we are projecting, or we have deposited 700,000. In our forecast, we were supposed to reduce that to 250. However, given where we are in the town, I think we should continue to transfer 700,000 into stabilization to make sure that we have a good cash balance that is equal to 5% of our operating budget, which is our financial policy. Also included in the uses of funds is a capital article line item for 6.5 million. That is a pure estimate because the requests coming in from the town are over 10 million. So as we go through our capital items and the department head meetings, we literally have to go item by item to see if we can actually get to this number by prioritizing. What's important to know here, though, is this balanced budget is outside of our financial policy. So we're supposed to use recurring sources for recurring uses. That is not how this is balanced. We are using free cash to balance this budget right now. So we will have to make an exception this year or scrutinize this even further as we go through the next couple of months to make sure that we're within our financial policy. Areas of risk. There are 4. Health insurance is estimated to increase 8%. Going into '25, it was almost 9. And after further conversation with human resources, we think 8 is low, but that's what this budget is forecasting. Contract negotiations, we have 8 different ones going on this year. We have teachers, custodians and maintenance, nurses, cafeteria workers, dispatch, fire, police, and DPW, all this year. In our forecast, those are estimated approximately 5%, but we don't know how these negotiations are going to go. Inflation.
5% of the overall number.
Correct.
Not 5% on the salary line.
Correct. Inflation is still steady, and while we see interest rates decreasing, we still believe it's going to continue to rise, but not at the level it has been rising. And then energy costs. What's happening in the Middle East is escalating and could impact the energy costs that we pay across the town. So we're doing the best that we can with this estimated budget this early on in the process, but those are the highlights for us to consider.
Okay. Do you want to go to recommendations before we get into some questions?
Yeah, and I think it's just important to note that, we talk, it's an estimated budget. So as yet, budgets haven't been submitted, so we're estimating what those might be at this point. And so given the numbers presented, I'm recommending level service budgets be submitted. and that departments will document and justify budgets from the bottom up, that departments will use this opportunity to review approaches to current operations with the goal to streamline and improve efficiency, and that any special circumstances or requests for additional services or an expansion of services will be called out, and it will be documented and based on regulatory or statutory requirements, community growth, or needs that aid the most vulnerable in the community. And that departments highlight one-time funding requests. This gets back to our imbalance between recurring and non-recurring revenues and costs. So if there are some one-time funding requests, we can look at funding those perhaps from non-recurring revenue. And that departments provide metrics to support their requests. And that departments should understand that as these numbers get firmer over the next several months, we may need to make adjustments. And so they have to understand that just because a budget is submitted doesn't mean that that's what will be funded. And I just want to thank Kyla and the finance team for all their work on this. They did a great job, and it's much appreciated.
Okay, so your budget recommendation or your budget message recommendation is that we go with a level services budget expectation, that we also expect that everybody present a bottoms-up budget. And I'm assuming that everyone will understand what that means as we go through the process here a little bit. Some folks, most do, some won't, maybe they're new or something, but that means you don't start at, okay, I get 100 grand, therefore I get 2.5, so I get 102,500. No, you start at 0 and you figure out where you need to go, and then we talk about it from there. Okay. And what else are you recommending? So level services, bottoms-up budget style, if you will, budget building style or approach.
That any expansion of services or additional items be documented based on statutory, regulatory requirements or other community needs, and that highlight recurring, non-recurring costs be highlighted.
Okay. Great. All right. Why don't we begin with Ms. Lafreniere, rather, I'm sorry. Your thoughts on Elaine's recommendation.
Well, I had a couple of notes here when I was reading the agenda, and one of them was level funding, and the other one was even at that, no guarantees. So I am absolutely expecting people to come forward with short and cut and level funded budgets present us with, because we can't afford more.
So if I could, level funded is different than level services, right? Level services is maintain what we've been doing on behalf of the residents or for the residents. So level funded would be.
Same funding as this year.
Okay, so yours is a little bit different message.
There is a little bit different message.
As one person right now.
Gotta tighten our belts, big time.
Okay.
I've had people come up to me and tell me not to continue to try to find ways out of this, which, I want to do. But they said the people voted all this stuff at town meeting. They voted it again in an election. We told them all the way through that this is going to be very expensive and cost a lot of money. And for some reason, every year we find a way to get around it and to help them out. And I've had other people say, it's time we paid the piper. So this is a message that I'm getting from the public, which is surprising. And then again, I'm hearing from the elderly and people who are in trouble and who are, begging for relief. So I would rather work that way, actually, and give them more relief that need it.
Anything else for right now?
No.
Okay. And by the way, folks, this is a months-long process with an S on the end of it. This is not a final decision tonight. We're not setting a budget tonight. We're not even close to going there. This is just the beginning of a months-long process, and we will massage and figure it out and answer a lot of questions and go through all kinds of stuff. So please bear with us as we go through the process. It takes a while. It's a very public process, but we're not making any final determinations tonight. We already have a little bit of a disconnect, and that's good. That's healthy. That's what we got to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
I certainly agree with starting with level services. You know, it's really tough to start cutting town services, you know, both from a town employee standpoint, also, you know, resident, what they get from that. But I think as we dig in, you know, from the bottoms up approach, I don't know, you know, how granular we've gotten in the past, but I think we'll get very granular this year when we do that with the different groups. And I think that should be the expectation is, you know, how heavy we do the bottoms up, digging deep.
Okay. Good for now?
Good.
Mrs. Ritterbush.
Yeah, I agree with Joe that I would like to start with the level services. I think the town is growing and people are, we still haven't quite caught up to all the services people need. So I think we should start with level services, and if we have to go down, we should. I wanted to note for the public that our new growth numbers are down this year. We had been growing very rapidly, and it's not quite growing as fast anymore. So on one hand, there's fewer people coming in, but at the same time, there's less new growth money. There's some good slides in our packet. I hope the public will take a look at those that show some historical perspectives and the comparisons with other towns and the amount of debt and amount that goes to the schools. I think those are helpful too. And then a question, not for tonight, but for the future, for the town manager and superintendent. I would like to know about the MBTA Communities Act. I know there are a lot of grants we're going to lose out funding for if we don't pass the MBTA Communities Act. So I would like to know specifically what grants will particularly impact Hopkinton. I think some of the water fixes like the MWRA connection would be affected, and not the big school building grants, but I think other school grants could be affected. So I just want to make sure we have that picture before the November town meeting.
All set? Mr. Menon.
Thank you, Elaine. I think, you know, this is a well-articulated message, and I agree with level services. And to me, that translates to managing our quality levels for our residents and quality levels of the services and managing the growth, should we see, and the data shows that. And I also want to, I mean, I've been an advocate and being very strong on mentioning that we want to do bottom up, and it's going to be only need and priority basis. And given the financial situation that we are in, I hear a lot from the residents. Everyone's super concerned about the tax impacts that we are experiencing and the tax burden that we are seeing on our bills. So certainly we need to be extra careful and have our laser beam focus that I keep saying onto our budgeting, onto all the financial activities that we do. So this resonates well with that. And I would only add that bottom-up budgeting, in my view, I'm going a little more one layer down, would translate to three things, if I may. One is that we want to look for opportunities where we can optimize the budget from our previous few years' learning. And that would mean, and it may sound like a broken record, but this is another perfect time to interject. Since we have $3.5 million in free cash unspent from last year, we want to go line item by line item and say, okay, what was allocated? What was the actual? Where's the savings? And do we need that anymore? And we have to have, full justification based on risk, regulatory, and other compliance needs, and or severe quality impacts to justify that. Again, it's not granted as you have laid out, just translating it to a little more granular level. And the second one is that we also want to look at our risk factors. I fully appreciate and always have been tremendous supportive of increasing and improving our stabilization fund, our OPEB fund, to meet the requirements and the regulatory or best practice thresholds. And that said, we also want to see that we don't want to deprive any immediate urgent need to overshoot. I don't think that is happening or is in the proposal, but that is something I would also urge to take a close look and looking at the numbers, looking at the thresholds, the percentage, and then adjust it if we think it needs to be adjusted. Should it be increasing? Should it be reducing? Should it be staying the same? I know, Kyla, you mentioned it was 750, which was probably the highest in the last 20 years, which is great. And if we can afford that, I would go 700, even $1 million. Stabilization is always that, right? Or rainy day fund. But should we see that it is above our 5%, even 6%? I don't know the latest number. And we can adjust and tone to hire another, help in senior center, to hire or help with our healthcare and health department, to help with our SPED education or school or our fire or our police, and again, risk-based and high priority-based, level services-based decisions, then we should also look at that closely. And then the third one is, you mentioned it, the 10 million that we have, and doesn't have to be today. I'd like to see some proposals. What is the best way to use that in terms of looking at our two major things, tax burden and level services or quality of services? And if reducing the debt would have a good start on that front, let's look at that. And if, again, we don't want to see any more capital spending, that is pretty much our going in position. But should there be, something that's as threatening as, I'm throwing out example, not giving ideas, that can be compromising with services to quality of life or even our safety and security or anything that is, I would say, level 5 category, we should look at that and see without, adding more to the burden if we can accommodate that. And again, not giving ideas, going in position is no more spending. So with those, I would, I think, extrapolate for what our budget guidance would be. And I think, Elaine, you have captured it pretty well with the statements that you mentioned. And I think I covered pretty much. And I also liked the criteria that you have provided for any new request, expansion request, or additional request for the OPEX as well. And I am a data guy, so I would add, if there is a way for us to interpret and for the town to interpret, when you have those requests, when we have those discussions, I'd like to see if Kyla, you and others can come together at some tiering of those requests or scoring of those requests. So it translates based on those criteria that this is the number 5 priority-wise, number 5 in terms of our need-wise, and this is low, number 1. That would, I think, help our conversations, not having it more as a judgmental conversation, but actually data-driven and risk scoring and our key criteria of meeting the or mitigating the tax burden, managing the service levels, and managing the risks for our town. So I think that would be my guidance on this.
Okay, thank you. Kyla, the estimate, purely an estimate that you have this evening that balances it all out per state law, does that include a 2.5% tax increase?
Yes.
For the existing tax base?
Yes.
Okay. The 2.5% tax increase, that's the estimate, that's been sort of the norm over the years. It's been a little less most years, but whatever. Is that 2.5% built into the number that's the 12.5 going to 18.5 for the average house in Hopkinton over the next 5 years?
Yes.
So that's built into that. Is there any more built into that 18.5 number? Or it's just 2.5 over that period of time?
It's 2.5 and plus operating expenses increasing.
2.5 on the operating side?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. We can't, this entire process, ever take our eye off that challenge of we're already going to 18.5. But we're going to 18.5 with 2.5. right? So if we save, let's say over the next 5 years, we only did 2, and we pick up 2.5 points over that 5-year period. Does that take in cost value of money, I don't know, 1.7 or something off that 18.5 number?
But our operating expenses are growing faster than 2.5%. That's what this shows you, is
So
that,
we're worried about a deficit even at the 2.5.
correct,
Got it, at the 18.5 number.
correct.
Got it.
And that's what, so your profit, this is what recurring versus non-recurring revenue is showing, that our operating expenses are growing significantly more than what our property tax can keep up with.
Got it. And the estimate for right now to start the process is assuming how much in new growth?
1.4, hold on. 1.489 million.
Which is down from previous years.
Correct.
Which was a high of 2.5, something like that, a couple years back.
Yeah, last year was 1.5. It's a decrease of 5%.
All right. Okay. Stabilization is currently around how much?
It's in
6?
packet. It's, yeah. Once we transfer another 700,000 in 2026, if our operating budget stays at this number, we will be in line with our financial policy of 5%.
Which drives our bond rating.
Correct.
Which drives the price in which we pay for the money that we borrow.
Correct.
So if we mess up the bond rating by not having enough stabilization savings, our bond rating goes down, our interest rate goes up, and our operating expense just got that much higher
Correct.
because we have to pay that much more in debt service. So the stabilization is a big piece of this puzzle that we got to keep an eye on,
Correct.
right?
And we can have a buffer with free cash. So it's a balance between free cash and stabilization to equal that 5%.
Free cash and stabilization is the 5%, not
Correct.
just stabilization.
Correct.
Okay, so wouldn't we be a little bit higher than that right now?
We can if we don't spend free cash on capital articles that are a critical need.
Like pay-as-you-go type spending. Got it.
Through the chair, while we're at it, just clarifying. So Kayla, thanks for those numbers. So how much is on our stabilization today? And we heard free cash is 10. Can you give those numbers?
Yeah, they're in the packet. Hold on. So, all right, as of August of this month, of this year, stabilization has a $5.7 million balance. And if we contribute another 700,000, we will be in line with our policy. So we won't need free cash, but free cash is always a nice buffer to have.
We won't need it in FY '26. We sure could use it in '27 and '28 and '29 maybe, right? Because it's just going to keep on going up from there. Okay. Mr. Menon, any other question? I know you good there?
I am, yeah. I think that's very helpful. And another data point, if you have it, I wanted to check is for our OPEB, what is our current level? What is the required level? And how much we are anticipating for the coming year? That's one. And going back to the free cash question, my understanding is we can't keep the free cash floating, right? Then there is a risk of sudden utilization at some point in town meeting or somewhere. So we need to find a home for that. Are those two, can you clarify on those two? Sorry.
Yeah, that's a correct statement about free cash. For OPEB, we are due to transfer $875,000, which is the standard 2.5% increase year over year, and we are due to be fully funded by 2048.
Well, we could take free cash and put it into stabilization, therefore it takes it out of that bucket and they can't go after it, right?
Yep.
And we can carry a higher than 5 or 6% stabilization number for future years when we're going to have to burn that down by transferring it back into the operating side.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So that, I mean, that's kind of my thinking is we have this free cash and please, there's no such thing as free cash. It's your tax dollars, okay? It's just the way the state calls it free because it got freed up. It's not free cash. We have this cash that if we put in stabilization, we protect it and we could use it in future years so that we don't have to have an override 2 years from now. We could pull money out of stabilization and put it back into this revenue source for that particular year. And then we'd have some, but we have to put it in stabilization to have it be savings.
Correct.
Right, so I think that's one of the things that we want to consider is how much can we save, not beyond FY26, what can we save for 27, 28, 29? Because it's only going to get harder to balance this out each year.
We also have a capital stabilization fund that hasn't been utilized year over year, which we could put money into too, given the capital requests that are on our 5-year plan.
Great segue. We have 10 million right now in capital requests, is that correct?
Over 10 million.
Over 10 million in capital. Give me an example of some of these capital requests that we're getting already.
Well, they would
Pick
do.
on anybody, I'm just curious. What are people looking for right now?
We have the police vehicles, we have improvements to the fire and police station, which are union impacting. We have, DPW has about 5 different vehicles that they are requesting. Water and Sewer Enterprise have certain improvements that they need to make. I'm trying to think.
Okay, that's good.
Oh yeah, the public safety radio, which has,
Fairly normal requests as well.
except for the public safety radio, which has been on the, proposed to be on the warrant for, I believe, 4 years now, which is at a critical state.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so thanks for answering those questions, and we're going to be drilling into all this stuff over time here, but you can just sense at least where I'm coming from about saving money for future years, because that's going to be a challenge. I think we're going to be okay in 26. We'll figure it out. I have no idea what we're going to do beyond that, because it's going to get worse, not better. And 26 is going to be a challenge, but we can figure it out. That's why I'm worried about savings. Okay, with that, we have several guests here with us this evening. We have the school committee, we have the school administration, we have capital improvements committee, we have appropriations committee. I think I've covered all the various public entities here. Does anybody have any thoughts, any ideas, things they want to share about the budget message that we're trying to put together tonight? We don't want to get into a lot of the budget discussion. What's the budget message that we want to make sure we're all on the same page about? That's what I'm curious about at this moment. Mr. Manning, if you would join us at a mic.
So thank you. So thank you, Kyla and Elaine, for putting that budget and that message together. I agree with the message that we have to be really tight with things. But one thing I do want to point out when you're about the usage of free cash, I know you said there's a balanced budget using that, adding that $10 million in free cash. What I noticed is that $2 million of it is using recurring expenses, and that's the danger, and I would like to see that avoided. So, we haven't done that for a long time, and that's going to dig ourselves a hole, because next year for 27, we're going to have to come up with the money plus that $2 million, because we may not have the free cash. So I just wanted to make that statement to make it clear. I think it should be a goal to eliminate that $2 million usage.
Okay, thank you. That was the Appropriations Committee. But anybody else? Please.
Thank you for the opportunity. So Matt Kisner speaking on behalf of CIC. So I'd like to try and emphasize the need for long-range planning and long-range planning reconciliation as part of the budget messaging process. One of the things we've really struggled with as your capital entity is what I like to call surprise requests. They're things that I can't find on 2 or 3 year ago capital FY projections, but they're coming into the current capital FY. And I'm going to heed your advice about not getting into specific examples. It's been a recurring challenge for us. So as I hear your message about savings, managing expenses, tightening up a little bit, one of the things that I think we can really get stronger about is that long-range planning. Having an honest and forthright discussion today about the things that we know we need in the future so that we aren't confronting 27 and 27 or 28 and 28. We're planning for them now, which enables a significant strategic flexibility in some of the other budget machinations that we've discussed here. I have some things I'd love to discuss about partnering, but I'm going to fly high on the details per your request here. I think that's a good message for the department heads and the town as a whole. We need to be thinking a little bit longer term.
Great, thank you. Anybody from the school committee?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nancy Kavanaugh, I'm from the school committee. I just want to say, for those who at home who maybe have not followed our budget over year, I appreciate the zero-based, the bottoms up. That is the approach that we always take. It is hard going into it to predict exactly where we're going to be in a couple of months. So that's where we start. We do have a very public process, and I'm hoping that not just members of the select board, but people at home will share their input with us as we go along. And I look forward to the back and forth with all of you in trying to get the budget that serves both the needs of Hopkinton and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from the school committee want to share any thoughts? Seeing none, anybody else from appropriations share any thoughts? Yes, sir.
Through the chair, I just want to piggyback a little bit on Mike Arakalian. This is my second year, started my second year on the committee. At the last budget approval, I noticed a lot of articles, or not a lot, but there were a few articles that were funded with free cash. So I guess when they're developing their bottoms up, and I learned the difference between level services, level funding, to have that be in consideration, that they not have to hopefully go at the end to use free cash, you know, because unless something extraordinary comes up that requires it. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, seeing no other takers at the mic, any other final thoughts from board members before we go to the town manager for maybe a little bit more codified budget message motion type concepts? Anybody, anything else you want to share? Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a clarifying question, and since we have all the key budget stakeholders here, this is a great forum. So our growth has been projected, or currently, to be 5% less, right? Which should give us some respite. That is, but at the same time, we are losing some revenue. But I wanted to understand, does that growth translate into the school growth going downwards? I don't think so, but do we have data for that? If not now, we can recollect and reconcile this through the budget process. But just to understand, the housing growth may not always be translated to student growth the same way in the schools. Anyone from budget, or sorry, from school, or Kyla, if you have any data that you can share?
Yeah, the new growth figure that's in the sources document is from property tax, so it doesn't equate to school growth at all.
It's not that there's no growth, it's just less growth than last year, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
The one data point we do have in the room, Mr. Manon, is when you asked that question, most of the school committee members were shaking their head no. So I think that there's a sense that that's not necessarily the case, that just because we're slowing our growth, our school growth is not slowing. In fact, it's doing the opposite.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Chair. I did suspect that, because I also wanted to bring it up, because we want to take all data points and all analytical, minds and facts into consideration as we go in. So appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Just a small comment. When we mentioned all the vehicles that need to be replaced, I remember a long time ago when we were in a real bad budget crunch, we had a garage at the DPW, and these departments are all asked to see if they can't squeeze another year or two. I know that we have a schedule for replacement of vehicles, but if we have a really good vehicle that can be saved, let's put it off for a year or two.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Clark?
Nope, I think everyone's in agreement on the message that we're trying to send.
Yep, I don't have anything else.
Okay. So Elaine, do you want to try and put a motion in front of the chair that someone could then make?
So the board could vote to adopt the recommended budget message with any changes you wanted to add, if you wanted to add something, say, about long-term planning, for for capital.
So we have a recommended budget message from the town manager's office, and that is for level, just the basics are level services, bottoms-up approach. What else?
One-time fundings, things highlighted.
One-time funding sources highlighted, any additional regulatory things highlighted.
Yep, provide metrics, and that there's an understanding that things might change throughout the process.
Okay. So basically, we have a budget message that is level services and build it from the bottom up, and we'll go from there. Okay? I'm seeing a lot of folks nodding their head in the room. I think we're all basically in agreement with that message. So does somebody want to make the motion?
So I would make
I
the
make the
motion.
motion that we approve the budget message as outlined and stated by Town Manager Elaine Lazarus.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second by Mrs. Ritterbusch. Any further discussion? Mr. Manon, how do you vote, please?
Faisal Manan, yes.
Amy Ritterbusch, yes?
Joe Clark, yes.
Mary Jo Lefrenu, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. It's unanimous and so carries. We have our budget message for FY '26, FY '26. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on that. There's a lot more to come. Thank you all. All right. Let's move on to item number 8. We almost got to it. Town manager report.
So with regard to the Main Street Corridor Project, highlights at this time are, as long as the utility companies continue to stay on schedule, transfer of overhead utility lines from the old poles to the new should be completed by the end of October. And then those poles on the west side of the project will start to be removed. The work to connecting underground is continuing on the east side of the project. The installation of the bricks began on September 9th and is continuing. They're working every day, getting those bricks to fit in the strips out there, and it's starting to look pretty good. The landscaping is planned for the fall, and changes are under review by Mass DOT, which might result in some changes, and meetings are ongoing in that regard. Is there anything else regarding Main Street?
Questions on Main Street? Okay.
Okay. There are no town department position vacancies that have come up since the last meeting, so nothing to report there. And then regarding the Center School playground, as you know, it's been some time since Center School has been used as a school, and over that time, the playground has deteriorated. There are neighboring people who do use it occasionally, and it's been a nice neighborhood resource, but it's deteriorating to the point where it needs at least $50,000 in upgrades in order to make it safe for everyone to use. So I've been working with DPW and with the facilities department on what we can do there, and the recommendation has been to close the playground to the public due to the liability and safety concerns. And since we don't know what's going to happen with the building, putting a lot of money into it right now just doesn't seem to be prudent at this time. So we would close it and make it secure, which is a shame. I know that people use it, and it's been a good resource.
And that playground is within our purview and not that of Parks and Rec?
That's correct.
Okay. Because we took the building from the schools, not took it, but
Right.
responsibility for it once it was closed.
Yeah. I mean, some of the playground equipment had been temporarily fixed with plywood a number of years ago, and that can't stay that way. So things like that just haven't been fixed.
Okay. There's other public playgrounds in town. There's EMC Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's playground at Marathon, correct?
I think at all the schools.
there?
Yeah.
Are there others? Elmwoods, I think, is gone now, or Hopkins is gone. They didn't have much of one.
I think Sandy Beach might have one now. Is that right? Sandy Beach have a small playground area?
I don't know. But there's other options for folks in town. If they've been using Central School, there are other places they can go.
And those are safer.
And I just want to clarify too, the grounds will still be open. I think there's trails people can access back there.
Oh, yes, you can still access the trails back there.
Okay. The picnic tables? I can't recall. At one point, there were picnic tables back there, too.
They're still there up on the hill.
Okay. So it is too bad, but I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it open, but it's unfortunate.
Okay, so you're going to take care of that?
Yes.
You don't need a vote for that?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else?
Not on that, no. And then the final item is Town Council and Labor Council. The board, around the 1st of July, by bylaw, should be appointing Town Council and Labor Council. The board had talked about, exploring other options, but we're well into the fiscal year, so I'm just recommending that the board appoint our current council through the end of the fiscal year. And if the decision to look at options for next year, we can do that in the months coming up.
Okay, so you're making a recommendation to go ahead and do the reappointment
Yes.
with the understanding that we would, if we want to do something different, we'd get into a more formal process come January, February.
Right, we need some more time.
All right, is that something you need imminently, or is that something that we should noodle on, or?
I think if the board could make the appointment tonight, that would be good. It would be appreciated.
Okay, so let's hang on this topic for a minute then. So town manager is recommending that we reappoint town council and labor council for the balance of FY '25? Correct? Does anybody have any thoughts or opinions on that? Ms. Lafreniere?
No, I would, no, I don't know about Labor Council, to tell you the truth, very much, but I would reappoint Harrington and Heap. That's my personal opinion. I don't.
Okay. Mr. Clark, anything?
This was something we obviously brought up earlier this summer, and so I'm still of the belief that I'd like to see options to make a change, just know what's out there. Sometimes change is needed or the right thing, but I also understand the time commitment needed for that, and it's not the thing to do right now. But if we could formalize some type of plan of, middle of January, we'll get options together ahead of this June, so that we're not coming into next summer scrambling. I'm good to move forward temporarily.
Yep, we could do that.
Yep.
We'll probably work that into the motion.
I think we'll have to, yeah.
Mrs. Ridbush?
I don't have any questions or comments.
Okay. Mr. Manon, any thoughts on this topic?
I think I would go with Elaine's recommendation for managing the risks and the logistics that we mentioned, and we can bring it up for discussion at a suitable time, of course.
Okay, thank you. So with that, and because, well, it's on the agenda, so I think we can entertain a motion this evening, to your point, to reappoint both town council and labor council with the understanding that a plan for a market survey and perhaps interview process be put in place for reappointment for FY '26, right? So does somebody want to make that motion?
Before we do that, so realistically, what time frame do you think is realistic to get all this pulled together and kind of talk about it again? Is January too soon?
I think January is a good time to start.
Start in January?
Would be, on my side, we'll be done with the budget and be
Yeah.
ready to work on something else, as you take on the budget.
Okay.
Very optimistic about that. All right, so I think there's a suggested motion to reappoint town council and labor council for the balance of FY '25 with the understanding that a formal process to review FY '26 options for town council and labor council be undertaken no later than February 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion, please? Everybody good? Mr. Manon, and you want to vote first?
Edelman, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Ritterbush, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. So we'll continue to retain those folks and work on a process to look at possible options for the following fiscal year. Okay, anything else from the town manager's office?
No, that's it.
All right. Item number 9, liaison reports.
Oh, wait, Sorry, I did have a question on the town manager's report.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So it was back in July 16th at a meeting, we were told that the negotiations with Southborough had paused while we formed the Water Sewer Commission. Have they started up again, or they're waiting until we appoint?
I think they're waiting until we actually have a body appointed.
Okay, so we're delayed probably 3 months now, okay.
Okay, good. All right. Elaine, you're good, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to item number 9 then on the agenda, which is liaison reports and/or board invites. Mary Jo, anything?
No, I have 3 or 4 coming up in the next few weeks, so I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Mr. Clark.
The one I want to call out is kind of 2 things. One, just kind of a thank you to our police department, fire department as well, working with the schools. We had a swatting incident at the high school today, and it was well communicated throughout, handled quickly, and the debrief I got was very thorough, and so I want to send my thank you to all the people involved in that. And then the police are also offering a coffee with a cop tomorrow morning, 9 to 11, I believe, at All Fresh for any residents that would like to get out and meet our police department.
Great. Mr. Bibers?
Yep. So I wanted to point out for the public that the town of Milton has fought back against the MBTA Communities Bylaw Act, and that's going to be in court on October 7th. I know people are kind of hoping that Milton will win, and therefore we won't have to do the MBTA Communities Act, but I want people to keep an eye on that realistically, because there's a good chance they will not win against that battle. Second, October 10th, the MMA is holding a workshop that sounds like right up Hopkinton's alley. It's called What Role Do Arts and Cultural Initiatives Play in Economic Development? How do communities of all sizes and location advance arts and culture? And I think that really ties in with our downtown project and the cultural district and the potential arts center. So I hope maybe some of us can attend that, or maybe Julia Chen could attend. It's in the morning, unfortunately. So it's during the workday, so I don't think I'll be able to attend, but it looks interesting. And Art on the Trail is coming up October 10th through 16th on Center Trail, so people will stop by and see that.
Great. Mr. Manon?
Not a whole lot, but just wanted to state the Winter Farmers Market is going to be starting on November 3rd, Sunday 11 to 3 p.m., goes up to mid-March. So I'm very happy about that, and please keep it on your radar. It's a great place to support local business, farmers, and get good, organic, healthy food. I'm a big fan of that. So just to put on, just to let you all know. And there was a cultural committee did a wonderful job. There was a mural opening on 9/22, and then Faith Church celebrated their 300 years 9/22 as well. So congratulations to them. That's all I have. And I also wanted to extend deep thanks for the services by our police, school, and fire department. They did a wonderful job. I'm hearing, and my daughter is in school, so we, as a parent, we all appreciate it, and great to see that we have such a wonderful safety and force behind our town. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything to add at this time. Item number 10 is future board agenda items. And Elaine and I did get together after our last meeting and clean the list up a little bit of those things that we've have taken some action on. I know there's still some things to come for some of those, but that'll be in the normal course now, not necessarily a future board agenda item. But still open is the Economic Development Advisory Council, Liquefied Natural Gas Plant Oversight and Advisory Committee. We did introduce that topic one night, but we really didn't get to it in any great detail. We need to get that back on as an agenda item itself. The Tax Relief Committee, like another one like that. We have another executive session this evening specific to the Hopkinton Police Department. We have on the unredacted documents, we're still working on that a little bit. We've got some information from town council. Wasn't he gonna revise it one more time and come back to us, right? So we're still awaiting that. Got it. Okay, so we'll leave it there for now. understand the options for the Town Council, Labor Council. We just took a step for that forward tonight, but we'll leave that there for now. And then senior tax credit hours, we just put this on last week because there was a change in the understanding or the expectation or the law itself, I don't know which, around tax credit hours and what could be done. So I do think we want to give that a full agenda item in the very near future to help those that we can. So that's item number 10. Does anybody have any other future board agenda items they want to add to the list?
I do have one. I should have mentioned it during the budget season, but we tried to have budget listening sessions last year, and I don't think anyone came to any of them. So I wondered if we could try to rethink that a little bit this year. Maybe we could have them not at our meetings, but maybe somewhere less formal that people would be more comfortable coming to ask.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I have one, and I think it's important. I keep adding, but I would like to hear from our Disability Commission and to see where the current state of things. They have been meeting for quite some time and have very thoughtful discussions and I think analysis of various policies and various opportunities for our town. And I would like to see if they could come to us and just to hear them out first and then see how we can help them formulating the policy or support or our, moral kudos to them. So that would be a good addition, I believe.
I'm sorry, the name of that committee again?
It's disability.
Oh, okay, yeah, got it.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, anybody else?
I just wanted to make a comment and say congratulations. Brian Thompson and his wife Christine, both born and brought up here in Hopkinton. Brian has just been elected to the Rhode Island Senate. They have moved to Rhode Island, so I think we should congratulate them.
Great. Thank you. Joe?
I just didn't see, I know we have to do the revised charter for the new Trails Committee. I just didn't know if that was already on the next agenda, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, you're right, that's been removed, yeah.
It should be for the next agenda. Still meeting with people on that.
No, I figured, I just wanted to call it up.
So, yeah, still pending is the Trails Committee reconstituted, Upper Charles blended the whole thing. Yep. And still to come is the Water and Sewer Advisory Commission or Committee. Getting that finalized and get some people lined up for that. So, okay. Anything else on future agenda items? Okay. With that, let's move on to item number 11 in the Select Board agenda for this evening, and that is an executive session. The board is going to go into executive session to update for an update and strategy session regarding arbitration filed by former Sergeant Timothy Brennan, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, and to approve executive session minutes from 9/17/24. So I believe there's a motion to go into executive session if someone would be so kind.
I move to enter executive session for an update and strategy session regarding arbitration filed by former Sergeant Timothy Brennan pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to approve executive session minutes, to allow Elaine Lazarus, Nicholas Anastopoulos, Joseph Bennett, and Scott Van Ralton to participate in executive session, and not to convene an open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
You second that?
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Lafreniere, how do you vote, please?
I vote yes.
I'm sorry.
Hearing Joe Lafreniere, yes.
Thank you.
Joe Clark, yes.
Amy Rodobush, yes.
Mr. Manan?
Nigel Manan, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. It's unanimous and so carries. We're going to go into executive session. We will not be reconvening in public session. We'll be adjourning at the end of executive session. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.